So Iridikron's sister was turned into a Titan dragon, and it is suggested we could be seeing her soon. We're learning about the actual relationship between Deathwing and Iridikron, and most importantly, we are discovering new locations in Northrend from the new book that was literally just released that are almost certainly going to be relevant very soon. Most importantly, we learn of Iridikron's lair, probably somewhere near Crystalsong Forest, which could be a location where he might be right now. This lair could also be tied to the prison of Yogg-Saron that was hinted to still be active in Northrend. Additionally, we got a few more relevant locations and characters that could all be leading us to Northrend in 10.2.5 or 10.2.7. So what is all this new info from the brand new book? If you want to get Dragonflight or anything else work related, Gamigo has some excellent deals that you can check out with my link below. Best of all, you can get software, gift cards, a bunch of games at below market prices. On top of that, you can also use my code DORON to get yet another discount, so make sure to check out my link below and grab some amazing deals at Gamigo. So the new book was just released called War of the Scaleborn. However, I do feel like the timing of it is not exactly ideal. I mean, I feel like this info should have been out right before 10.1 or around the start of Dragonflight. I mean, in this book we finally start learning the actual relationship between Northrend and Iridikron, what happened in that war, the relations between Alexstrasza and Vironot, and all of this is kind of coming out now as we're wrapping up the expansion and we already kind of knows how it ends. Now, I gotta say, the book definitely gives more context, it gives more weight to some of the cinematics and storylines that happened in game, although it isn't exactly groundbreaking, it's not exactly turning it into a masterpiece. However, I'm not here to give you a summary of the dragon conversations and all the fluff. I want to talk about a few really interesting bits that were mentioned in the book that seem like a pretty big setup for the future. So all of you might know that Northrend is actually the home of the dragons, not the Dragon Isles. This is something that I've been talking about pretty much since the start of Dragonflight. Why is that dragons go to die in Northrend and not Dragon Isles when the Dragon Isles are supposedly their home? The real answer is that Blizzard just added this lore kind of out of nowhere, but if we accept that, this is the most realistic explanation. Now, I can't say Blizzard did a really good job explaining the connection between these two areas, but it is the ancestral home and we have a few new locations mentioned in this book that are probably going to be relevant in the near future on Northrend, meaning we, as players, could actually be going there. The novel itself is set about 20,000 years ago after the defeat of Yogg-Saron, and it deals with all the events all the way until the primal incarnates are imprisoned, which essentially stops time and then just leads us into the Dragonflight. So there are a few characters and locations that are almost certainly going to be relevant. First is the so-called Frozen Fangs, which is essentially where Vironot lived back in Northrend in the old days. We don't exactly know the exact location, but it is a range of mountains that joins the ocean. It is entirely possible that this might have been destroyed with the Sundering. However, it is speculated that this is located either where Jotunheim is or somewhere around the end of Storm Peaks. As we know, Vironot became the new 6th aspect in 10.2. It is entirely possible we could be going to the Frozen Fangs in Northrend to her old lair, as it could be relevant in the near future. She might have something that could stop Iridikron's plan, as she used to work with him. I'm guessing this could be a side story of just discovering her lair, her old lair. However, the other location that we learn of is a lot more interesting. So we got the so-called Sawtooth Mountains, which is where Iridikron's lair was, and it could still actually be. The location is said to be close to where Yogg-Saron fell, so you would imagine somewhere around Dragonflight, but the best speculation that we have right now is that it is somewhere near the border of Crystalsong Forest, probably. Why I think this is very possible is because this is right smack in the middle of the continent, so it is very unlikely this was destroyed or buried with the Sundering, especially seeing that the remains of Yogg-Saron seem kind of intact nearby. They were not destroyed by the Sundering. Now, within these Sawtooth Mountains is the lair, the old ancient lair of Iridikron called Hero's Deep, and seeing that he is planning something big, it is entirely possible that he has returned back to his ancient lair now to plot new things to continue his plan. I mean, remember, Iridikron is said to know the deep places of Azeroth that no one else knows, and it is entirely possible that he can reach these deep places through his lair, and if we're gonna find him anywhere, it is probably gonna be his old home. At least he visited it once. The book also mentions interesting things in regards to him. He's said to be reclusive. In fact, Alexstrasza had never actually met him until a certain point, but most importantly, they talk about his relationship with Northrend, which is something I personally always wondered about. Like, are these guys, I mean, they're literally twins, they're just on two sides of the cosmological battle. Like, were they friends, were they brothers, were they sworn enemies? So, to confirm it, no more speculations, they're definitely rivals. Northrend doesn't like Iridikron. The book says that Iridikron was nearly equal to Northrend in not only strength but cunning and strategy, and Northrend saw him as a pretty significant threat. This kinda confirms that Iridikron is right around his power level, and if he gets new void powers, he could be above Deathwing himself in the very near future. Now, seeing that Farak seems to be the final boss of this expansion, Iridikron is 100% being saved for the next one, and we have even more interesting things to prove it, as it seems like Blizzard is actually putting some character development to him and really developing him into a more longer-lasting villain. Keep in mind, as I said, the book itself seems like really bad timing, seeing that Dragonflight is wrapping up, but I think this book is actually meant to be planting seeds for 11.0. It isn't meant to be just about Dragonflight. So, of course, we have some new characters that come in this book that are probably going to be very relevant, that are really interesting, and that are completely brand new. We've got this dragon called Talonstraus that got ordered by Force that is mentioned by name in this entire Alexstrasza Viranot Divide, and this is specifically what had angered Viranot in the past. This dragon could be mentioned soon. Then we learn about 3 wing leaders that serve the Iridikron. Most importantly, Virek, that is 100% a black slate, but he's like a significant lieutenant to Iridikron. Seeing that this guy is literally traveling back in time, we could be seeing his old comrades coming back to help him once again, maybe back through time. However, the most interesting character and 100% seems like a setup for the future is Ikronia, the actual sister of Iridikron, and not like a sister as the dragons would call each other, but literally like this is Iridikron's sister. Ikronia was ordered, turned into a full Titan dragon, which meant his own sister was turned to the side that he fought, and within the book itself it was assumed she was lost in battle. However, keep in mind, it was only suggested she was lost, but it was never actually confirmed, which means that it is very likely she could be coming back soon. Now, if you guys remember in the past, Drelad was also mentioned, the undead brother that fell in the battle against Galakrond. It was the literal brother to Alexstrasza and Yogg-Saron. I don't think he's particularly relevant to Ikronia, but both are siblings of Alexstrasza and Iridikron, and both are being mentioned. However, I feel like Ikronia could have somehow survived, and she could either be of use to us to help us show where Iridikron is the weakest, or she could even turn back to his side. However, everything is kind of showing us the dragons are all just in total turning against the Titans, so I don't think we're actually going to be helping the Titans. We're probably gonna be fighting the Titans very soon. Most importantly though, the mention of his lair potentially being there could signal us actually returning to Northrend. This could be where 10.2.5 happens, or 10.2.7. Keep in mind, at this point in time, we know absolutely nothing where the story actually leads us. Like, in the past, we kind of knew that 10.2 is gonna be about the Emerald Dream. Like, we knew this 6 months ago. Right now, we only know 10.2 is about the Emerald Dream, but we know nothing what happens further. I'm guessing after a Miracle Cell returns, we'll get a patch talking about Night Elven restoration, some slight revamps and all that, but we could be going in this half patch to Iridikron's lair as a setup for the next expansion. He's probably gonna abandon his lair, but we're probably gonna find some info that will lead us into 11.0. Additionally, conveniently enough, last year and just a week or two back, we got 2 brand new books, Exploring Azeroth Northrend and Exploring Azeroth Pandaria. Both of them are kind of filler, updating the old zones to the current day, but both have old god hints. The first one in Northrend talks about Yogg-Saron's presence still echoing in this zone. Another just released Pandaria book mentions the Mantid going back to worshipping Y'Shaarj. Of course, these are not exactly old gods are coming back right now, returning hints, but as I said, Iridikron's lair is around the middle of Northrend, where Yogg-Saron's prison is, and if he has tunnels under the ground to the so-called deep places, I mean, he would have without a doubt dug into the prison of Yogg-Saron, and this could be a pretty big game changer for the actual return of the old gods. Of course, we'll have to wait and see how the story develops, but at the moment, the return to Northrend in some type of a smaller patch or questline seems very likely. And also, keep in mind, Ikronia, Iridikron's sister, as well as his former commanders, are probably gonna be pretty relevant soon. Thank you for watching. Check out all the 11.0 leaks by clicking on the screen to get all the up-to-date info just before BlizzCon, and check out my video on Ancient Greeks in Spain by also clicking on the screen as well. See you next time.